What's going on, kid family? And on today's video we are going to be repairing a crack that we have in the rear bumper because in the winter time there's a lot of snow. I was probably backing up into a parking spot and my mud flap probably created enough pressure to crack the mounting point and the bumper is cracked. So we're going to take the bumper off. We're going to try to fix that crack and make it not noticeable to the human eye. And how we are gonna do that, first I decided we're gonna remove the bumper from the car. It's just gonna make things a lot easier, and I think it's just gonna be a higher quality job. All right, once you pop the trunk, there's gonna be two screws you need to remove, this one and this one. Once you get to the side of the car, there's gonna be 3 bolts, 1, 2, 3, and one on top right over here. And that's gonna go on both sides. Once that's removed, there's 2 bolts right underneath holding this air skid plate right over here, and then we can pull the bumper off. So let's get into it. Time elapsed about 10 minutes. Everything seemed to go off smoothly except one bolt that was a little rusted. But here's my booty. Very interesting to see a car without the cover on, and you see how the actual fabrication has been made, the seam seals. This car has the original bumper, never in any accidents, as you can tell. There are no damaged areas to any of the frame. So far so good. Very good, very good. Everything looks good. So let's go ahead and look at this crack. Look what we have going on here. You see the bumper is missing. This is the piece. Let's take a look. I used some caulking back in the day. You know, caulking fixes everything, as most of you know. Alright, so on the driver's side here, you guys can see we do have an unexpected crack as well. Didn't know this was here. I thought it was only the passenger side, but the same problem here is, you know, over time this is gonna crack and fall off, and that mud flap is not gonna hold as well as it needs to this bumper. So there's a few options we can do. We can, just caulk it. For those viewers that think I should caulk it, hit that like button. But I'm thinking maybe we fiberglass this. Maybe we can fiberglass it from underneath and pour some resin on there to make it strong. We could probably even plastic weld it over here. I'm just trying to debate what would be the best option. But for the driver's or for the passenger side, as you guys can see, it is completely ripped apart in 2 pieces. So it'll be going in something like this. one here. This one's going to be a lot more challenging to repair because it's a two-piece fracture, I guess you can say. So yeah, debating on how to repair it right now, but as soon as I know, I'll definitely fill you guys in. The good thing is, whether I repair it just from the inside, or even if I decide to put some kind of adhesive on the outside, the adhesive is going to be hidden by this whole portion of the mud flap. So you can see there's an imprint all the way up past here where that mud flap covers. So even if I was to put some fiberglass or glue over here, you won't really notice it. As long as this stays firm in place, we shouldn't have a problem. And I have to be sure to drive a little bit safer in the winter time, because when I parallel park on the street in the wintertime and the snow is way up here, I rather back the car into the parking spot than pull the car in forward, because I know my front end is lower than the rear end. So I always back the car into the parking spot, and that's why when I back it in, my mud flap is pretty much the first one to get pressure on it and pull back. And that's that action right there. When the snow pushes against that mud flap, it pulls the bumper. That's why the bumper is cracked. So yeah, winters suck. Alright guys, we got the caulk job all finished. Can't wait to fix this the right way. I'm kidding guys, this is the section we need. This is all epoxies and super glues and adhesives, so there's a lot of choices out there, but we are going with the Loctite General Epoxy. Let's go and check it out. So this is what you will need to get the job done, guys. Not a lot of products, very simple products. Ran us about 10 bucks. First, you need sandpaper. 100 grit is what I'm using. You can go even down to 80. Some alcohol wipe. This is medical gauze. Now this is going to help strengthen that crack. And you can also use cheesecloth. You can use coffee filter, or fiberglass itself. I've seen a lot of people using different things. This is just a good material that you can't really break apart with your hand, so that will give it more strength with the epoxy. So make sure you guys use something like this. And then we got the epoxy itself. I actually found one at home as well, but we got two just in case if we needed additional epoxy. I'm not exactly sure how much we will use, especially since we got the medical gauze too. We might need to use some more. These have a 5-minute set time, so that should give me enough time. Also, you do need a mixing cup, and anything will work. I got a drill bit here, a couple of zip ties, and a drill. So we have all the supplies we need, guys, so let's get started with the repair. Alright guys, so the first thing you want to do is take your coarse sandpaper and just sand the whole surface down right by the crack. You can sand the actual mating surfaces and the back surfaces of the bumper. This is going to give the epoxy something to grip onto when it is setting. So don't just do the bumper itself, do the little pieces that broke off also. This is going to make sure the bond is at its best and it won't create future cracking later on down the road. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to drill some holes here, and the reason I'm drilling holes is because I need this bumper piece to stay in place when I put the epoxy on, and I feel like because of all these small cracks and crevices, this is just going to keep falling apart. So what we're going to do, we're going to drill out a few holes around this area, and then we're going to zip tie it together. This way it is going to be nice and flush, and the zip ties honestly do give the bumper a lot of rigidity as well. So here I am just drilling holes where I think they would be appropriate. And again, remember, these holes won't be seen once the mud flap is installed. So that's the benefit of where this crack is. But for you, the crack might be somewhere else, and you might want to consider what you want to do, because then you really, once you drill holes in it and put zip ties in there, you will have to sand it down and repaint the bumper if you want to do the job right.
Alright, at this point everything is nice and secure with the zip ties. Everything feels nice and firm. I can actually lift it by this area and there's no problems. So once you have gotten to this step, you want to just clip off the excess zip tie material, and at this point let's proceed. Take your alcohol wipe and we're going to just clean that area that we sanded previously. We want to make sure we just remove any dirt and grime and grease from there so the epoxy sticks better. At this point, I'm just trying to cut out an appropriate sized amount of gauze that we will be using for this area and this size crack. So this looks good to me, not too much, not too little. And if you're using one of the other materials I mentioned before, you would do the same exact thing. So let's go ahead. I'm going to use that used epoxy first. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm mixing it up, and we'll be ready to set it and apply it onto the cracks. So first, what you want to do is work quickly. This epoxy seemed like it set extra quick. I don't know if it was because it was used or what, but first you want to apply it deep into the cracks. I'm applying it here just with my finger, which seemed to do the best job, and it was the quickest method. But you want to apply first a layer of epoxy. That's the most important thing. Spread it out on both sides where you sanded as well, so it adheres properly to the bumper, and that's in the end going to give it a lot of support when it fully dries and hardens. So then you apply your choice of cheesecloth, coffee filter, medical gauze, or fiberglass. Here I am using the gauze, and right after I apply that, I'm trying to get use of this epoxy. It is drying very quickly, guys. I barely finished applying it and it's already hardened and tacky. So just try your best to work quickly with this and efficiently. So we ended up needing more epoxy. So here I am popping it open, and we're gonna apply some more. First, I'm gonna tackle the other side with the new epoxy and see how it works out. Like I mentioned earlier, that old epoxy I had, it seemed like it hardened extra quick, and it was just hard to work with the time that I had with it. And I ended up mixing some additional epoxy to go back on the original side where I used 2 sets of the medical gauze, and finally I was able to apply it thoroughly throughout the whole area. So I thought I was going to have a whole day to let this bumper cure, but unfortunately I got called into work in the afternoon that day, so I had to put it back onto the car to get to work. It did have about 2 hours of curing time, and to be honest with you guys, it was already pretty hard. What is going on, guys? It is the next day here, very gloomy, and at least it stopped raining, but the epoxy should have
fully cured by now. It's been 24 hours. Nothing much has changed except that I drove the car yesterday and it is a little dirty. But this thing, if you can see, this thing's like a rock. It's not going anywhere. And this is the bad side. So the other side, you can imagine, without being so torn up from the get-go, it is doing great. And when I put my hands behind it, rock solid. Very good. So let's throw on the mud flaps, guys, and this will conclude this video. For those of you guys still watching, thank you very much. You guys are the OGs. I know my videos are kind of slower paced and do take a long time to watch. Also, guys, make sure if you want to support your boy, all the affiliate links on eBay that I have below. If you guys want to purchase anything from eBay, if you use one of my links just to get onto the eBay website and make a purchase, I do get a small commission from whatever you purchase. It is absolutely free to you and it helps support the channel. So as you guys can see, everything is nice and flush. Beautiful job. Hopefully this thing lasts for a long time to come. But you guys might be wondering, what if my front bumper has a crack right in the middle and there's no mud flap that's going to be covering all that damage? So I know I use zip ties and I got away with it because it's hidden, but if you're in a situation like this, I definitely still recommend using the zip ties for the bumper. It's just going to give it more support, and when you do put that epoxy on, you know everything's going to be sealed nice and tight. That bumper, the gaps are going to be tight. You could potentially get away without zip ties and just putting the epoxy on the crack, but you got to make sure that it cures properly. So I don't know if you're going to want to put tension on there, or if you could potentially find a way to keep those two pieces together for a good hour or two while the epoxy does its work. Anyway, guys, let me know how you repair broken bumper covers. I'm curious to see. Hopefully this one works for a long time to come, and we have no problems next season. So go ahead, smash the like button if you found this video useful, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you. Come along and see it's true.